morning. Good morning. It is so great to be here to this great gathering of CBE. It's really a great honor for me to speak today. And it's just wonderful, you know, these 2 days. It was for me also kind of inspirational to see so many brothers and sisters in Christ who are working hard to promote gender equality. I have been attending, you know, in other conferences, secular conferences, UN, you know, conferences and all that. But there's something different in coming to this kind of, you know, in conference from those secular big conferences. It's just you come, you learn something, you go, but you feel empty inside. But this is something that really touches your heart on focusing on who I am, what is my faith, whom I'm following. So I'm so glad that I'm here this week. I have been working, as I said last night, many, many years. I look young, but I'm an old woman. I have 1 daughter and 2 grandchildren. People, when they ask me, you know, how old your grandchildren, to know how old I am. My granddaughter, she is 18 years old, and she's going to college this year. And my grandson is 16 years old. So that tells you how old I am. Working with the gender equality, it's not an easy job. It's a big challenge, and especially when you come from third world countries. And for me to work in a Christian organization, it was another big challenge. When I joined World Vision, before I joined, you know, I wanted to really, I was looking for a Christian organization, because living from a Muslim, you know, community background, I wanted to be in a community of Christian, you know, community that can provide me also a support and feel that I'm part of a community. So, but I had some struggle because, you know, I was like, well, do I really want to join an organization that works on gender and development? It's a Christian organization really working on gender. And am I really equipped? Do I know well the Bible so that I can challenge our own staff, the community? So that was my biggest challenge. I always, you know, as women can understand, you know, we always under-evaluate, you know, and we will say always, you know, can we really do it? So I've been like, you know, Moses, you know, oh, I'm not just that eloquent. I cannot speak that well. I don't know that well the Bible. I cannot, so it's always I cannot. When Mimi invited me to speak here, I said, Mimi, I really don't think I can come and speak, you know, because I'm not from the academic field. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a professor. So I really don't think I belong to that kind of gathering. So just all this to say that, you know, in what Lee was saying, you know, in his presentations has been very encouraging to me, as it has been encouraging to you, that we have to speak up. We have to trust ourselves how we do our job. I want to share with you today about what we have been doing and what I have been doing through World Vision. And let me see if I can work on this. Okay. Um, we have two different, forums. One is Christian community, and so we read the Bible and we see how, what is gender equality, and we look the secular in areas. So when we read the Bible through a gender lens, it teaches us that man and women are created equally in the image of God. And Jesus affirms the equal worth and dignity of male and female and challenge the patriarchal culture. So that's one, we are really saying we are equal. And on the other side, the secular development agencies acknowledged gender equality mainstreaming as the best strategy in achieving development goals, and many studies show transforming social norms and negative culture as a critical strategy for promoting gender equality and breaking the cycle of poverty. But in spite of all these affirmations of gender equality, women and girls around the world are still at risk from various forms of discrimination and life-threatening situations. From the very start of their lives, women face certain forms of discrimination because of their gender. This includes female infanticide, abduction, female genital mutilation, early marriage, honor killing, acid burning, forced prostitution, domestic violence, denial of education and health care. And we have been doing this for so many years, and we still are struggling. For example, let's look some of the findings of several studies from UN agencies and from other agencies. And 64 million women aged 20 to 24 from the developing world reported being forced to marry before the age of 18. I think many people are familiar with that. Protecting girls against dishonor, such as pregnancy outside of marriage, is a frequently cited reason for child and early marriage, as a pride word is linked to her virginity in many cultures. Parents fear that a girl who becomes pregnant outside of marriage will lose respect and fail to secure a husband later, or that her bride price will decrease. In Africa, our colleagues from Africa, they can, they know about that, how early girls are married off because they, and because of culture and because of the economy. So the father will get a lot of cows and camels, and if they, it's kind of just selling. In parts of India, for example, culture dictates that the bride family pay the groom's family a dowry, the value of which is lower when the girl is young. This custom reinforces the idea that it is best to hand over a girl child early before she becomes a greater economic burden. An estimated of 12.5 million girls between the ages of 10 and 14 in Africa have experienced female genital mutilation, FGM. In female genital mutilation also is called female circumcision. It's a term for the operation that involves the cutting of or removal of parts or all of the female genitalia. I don't go into details. I think most of you know about that. And in female genital mutilation is a harmful traditional practices that affects girls and women at least 27 countries in Africa out of the 46 African countries. It is estimated that more than 2 million girls are circumcised every year in Africa. This is an equivalent of 6,000 genital mutilation per day. The girls are normally initiated between the ages of 12 and 14. And the highest in maternal mortality and infant mortality occurs in areas that practices female genital mutilation. More than 60 million women are demographically missing as a result of sex-selective abortions and the female infanticide in China, South Asia, and North Asia. A girl is still 30% less, girls is still 30% less likely to finish primary school than a boy. And we know all that, you know, the girls, they drop out of school and they don't continue the education because they are girls. So why we still see struggling to, you know, on all these issues? I think it's not just that development and all that, and I think it's a moral issues. I think it's a spiritual warfare. And in order to address those issues, then we have to really address about our faith. Why is so and how we can overcome. Christian organizations have great opportunity and responsibility to provide leadership in promoting gender equality and justice. The highest standard for justice, equity, human dignity, and transformed relationships embedded in our faith continually challenge us to improve our efforts and illumine the path for others. As followers of Jesus, we believe that female and male are created equally in the image of God. Jesus' life and work underscore this reality as he challenged the constraints and cultural restrictions women face in the New Testament times in order to honor and empower them. In World Vision, we have been actively engaged over the years in building partnership with faith communities in order to address underlying gender-based social norms, injustice, and gender equality. I have been doing gender trainings for many years with World Vision. And what I realized was that we can do a lot of trainings on how to integrate gender, how to mainstream gender in our programs and projects, to train our staff to do gender analysis in their projects during the assessment, during the design, during the evaluation. But if you are not changed individually, then you cannot do those things. You can do just, you know, quick kind of, yes, I did this, I did this, I did that, but you are not really linked emotionally and faithfully on what you are doing. Because you are doing just because someone else told you to do, that you have to follow all these frameworks and all that. So then we said, okay, how we can really address the underlying problem, which is tradition and culture, and how we interpret the Bible. So then we said, okay, we have to really address those issues, and who can really help us to push this forward? Church leaders, pastors. Because people, they listen more to them. They are the spiritual leaders. When I was in Somalia, not only the church, faith-based organizations. I was in one of the founders of the Somali Women's Organization in Somalia, in a Muslim society. I was a member of parliament at that time. And we wanted to address the FGM issues in Somalia. But most of the people, they believed that even the FGM was a religious requirement. And some people, they just were doing because it has been done for many years to please the man, to protect the virginity of the girl. So what we did was we invited the religious leaders, the imams and sheikhs, to discuss about these issues. I had some kind of authority, so I was able to call them and talk to them, even though I was a woman. So, I said, can you give us where is this female genital mutilation in the Quran? They couldn't. So they said, oh no, there's not in the Quran. So I said, then you have to tell the people that this is not in the Quran. Because if I tell them, they don't believe it. So we organized them to go out, to speak up, to say this is not a requirement of the of Quran. That's how we get the attention of the people. And women were those who perpetuated more on this. Why they are doing that? Why they are marrying, their girls off? It's not that they don't think they are abusing them. They don't think they are hurting them. They think they are protecting them. Because if the girl is not circumcised, no one is going to marry her. So their mothers, they want their daughters to get married. They will not be accepted in the community. In Ethiopia, I was in Ethiopia, and there's a lot of abduction, girls' abduction. Girls, while they are going to school, 14 years old, 10 years old, they are abducted and forced to get married without even the parents knowing. So it became a culture. And I went to see one of our projects, and they had this girl that was abducted, forced married. But there was another, a younger one, that was 14 years old, and she was about to get married. And I was asking the mother why. And she said, well, I don't want that she will be abducted as her sister. So that's why I want her to get married soon. So that is the situation, how you can then deal with that. So, so we say that we can do gender mainstreaming in our programming, but we have to reach out in church leaders and even Muslim leaders. So we adopted a module, training module that in the beginning was developed by a lady, a Canadian woman, in Elaine, and we invited her to discuss this issue, how to develop a training toolkit, a manual to reach out the church leaders. So it's the partnership with church leaders. We call it a channel of hope for gender. Channel of hope coming from another initiative of World Vision, reaching out to church leaders when HIV/AIDS was really rejected by churches, how to really sensitize them. So we are using that methodology, and faith leaders are among the most influential members of the society. So we say that we have to really talk to them, train them, get them engaged so that they can partner with World Vision. It's an innovative approach to exploring gender forms and biblical perspective. This is kind of a participatory workshop that we, in the beginning, we invite in a few pastors for 3 days, 4 days of workshop, just to introduce the material, to say this is what we want really to promote. Are you willing to participate in this? And if they really want to participate, then we invite them for a 2 weeks long training, so that when they go back, they can learn more about that. So what is this, what are the themes that we I don't want to go all this. Okay. What are the themes? In the beginning, we launched in Africa, in DRC, in South Africa, in Kenya, in Malawi. And then we realized that people are really, the pastors became so interested, and we got a lot of requests to how, to participate in that. And the themes are the major content of the, what we call COH, Channel of Hope for Gender curriculum, was developed around the 5 themes, of which the middle 3 forms the basis of discussion and exploration. Introduction, first of all, as with other workshops, the first theme focus in framing the workshop, and through icebreakers and introduction, facilitators and participants are prepared for working together on issues that affect in their everyday life. Participants visualize their current gender relations as well as an ideal world. So there's a discussion about what do you think about gender, what is the ideal world, and with the pastors. So they raise their questions, they discuss those issues. And then second is the ordered creation and gender relations. This theme unpack and explore how God intended creation of man and women in harmony with themselves, one another, and with creation. Foundational building blocks brings about an understanding of God's dream for his creation. An interactive tool in the House of Human Experience is used throughout the workshop. So they will look at, they will do some kind of in group work, and they discuss about, what is this about? What is the creation of God, and what they believe in it, and they look at themselves, how they are treating their wives, how they treat their children, boys and girls, and so it is so interesting to see what comes out from those kind of discussions. Disordered creation and gender relations is the third one. Understanding what happened during the fall in Genesis 3 is the starting point in this theme. Participants discover and discuss the brokenness of relationships and the consequences. This is the time when local contextual issues are raised and discussed in more details. So when they discuss these issues, then they come up with what are those issues in their own context, as country, as a community, or individually. Number 4 is reordered and transformed gender relations. Transformation is made possible through Jesus Christ. During this session, various biblical texts are explored, and vision for transformation helps participants to understand their personal calling and that of their faith. In this way is that the 4th stage, that's when everyone is kind of looking at what is going on in me. What am I seeing here? How I feel about myself, how I feel about my family. That's when really everything comes up, and you can see people really getting emotional and saying, I haven't ever talked about these things. Some people, when they come back to the next follow-up workshop, they will say, some of them, they bring their wives with them. Because they were saying, when I went back home, my wife was like, what is wrong with you? You are not the person I knew. So they were saying, I want her to really listen what I'm learning so that we are together. And then there will be a closing session, and they will develop a plan of action when they go back what they are going to do. So it's not just that you will send them out, but there will be a follow-up kind of trainings. The methodology we use in going through all these four themes is first sensitization. You sensitize, you bring some statistics, you discuss with them what are the issues in their community. That these pastors, they may know, but they may not even know internally, what they don't feel it unless you come with some stories, with some statistics. So after the sensitization, they go through the facilitators. We have 2 facilitators who are trained in this, who are pastors. Magdalene, Dolo, Mimi met them, both of them, and Annie. So they work together as a team, a man and a woman, and they are the ones who facilitate this, and they train of trainers so that they can do it. They have more people to do it. Then they put together what they call a chat in congregational hope action team. So they go back to their church and they start that kind of group, and in a hope group within their congregation. And then in Magdalene and Annie, they will follow up with them and to really raise the awareness within their church. And what we then do is, in Magdalene and Annie, they work with them how to do advocacy, not only to sensitize their congregation and the community, but how they can learn what are the legal issues that are there. Female genital mutilation, there is a law against in every country, but the community, they may not know. If in early marriage, there are some laws in the countries, but these pastors, I'm sorry, they don't know all those kinds, and if they don't know, they don't talk about it. So we really challenge them to learn those laws and how they can even help the government for the enforcement of those laws. So it's an advocacy issue that we have to work with them. So what it makes this to happen? What we need is highly experienced and process-driven people, quality training, and provide essential knowledge within the community. What I would like to, this is one of the more successful module and training and program that we are doing. And many faith-based organizations are interested in this. Not only that, we need to really just work with churches, but how to engage, how to really also reach out UN agencies, other agencies, to really embrace this kind of trainings. UNFPA and UNICEF, now they are interested when they learn, how, let me say this, there were some kind of not collaboration between secular organizations, UN organizations, agencies, the World Bank, and the faith-based organizations. There were no collaboration because the secular organizations and UN agencies, they thought that these faith-based organizations, they don't really support equality, gender equality, because of their faith. So there was some suspicious kind of things. But now when they learned, these faith organizations, how they are working with church groups and pastors and changing the communities, all these underlying social norms, now they are reaching out to us saying, can we work together? So that's really, for me, is kind of, is God moving, through all this, whatever we are doing. And so now you can see there was in Solomon Island is one of our pilot projects. Governments, like US aid or Australia's aid, they always hesitate to, give grants to faith-based organizations. And if they give, there is some attached strings, don't teach Bible, don't teach this and all that. In Solomon Island, when Australian aid agency, the government, they saw how this was so powerful, because the Solomon Island government, the local government, they asked World Vision to train the police on how to address the gender-based violence. 99% of Solomon Island people are Catholic Christian. So then Australia government learned about that, UNFPA learned about that. Now they gave, in Solomon Island about $2 million for World Vision to do those kind of trainings and expand to other islands in the area. They did, UNFPA, they did a mapping research, looking at what faith-based organizations are doing, what church groups are doing in addressing the issues of traditional practices and all those social norms and gender-based violence. And they realized what they are, the impact they are really doing within many countries. And now they are reaching out. So what I'm saying here is there are great opportunities for us. When I say us, is Christian community, to lead these efforts around the world, to reach out. If we mobilize church leaders, faith-based organizations, can you imagine the gender equality? How quickly we can do so much. We have been using CBE materials and in our trainings of General Hope for Gender. People are so hungry, pastors, churches, they cannot get all these materials. So we are distributing all, the CPE materials throughout our, in offices in Asia, in Africa, Latin America. We are doing webinars with the CPE within our own staff, within our own leadership. Mimi, she did one a month ago, and now we have 2 more to do within our group, within our leaders, senior management around the world through WebEx. So it's really, I want to thank Mimi and the board and, how supportive they have been and willing to work with us. And now that I see so many African, groups from church and in here, Mimi and I, we were talking about how we can really create some kind of network together and invite these, leaders from Africa to come to the 2 weeks workshop so that they can also go back to their church and form these chat groups. And so it's a movement, it's a revolution I can see, So, and I pray and hope that when you go back to, we were doing a workshop, 3 days workshop in California, where Mimi came, attended one of those, and we invited some of churches from California and one in Seattle. And you know what they said? They said, oh, this is really fantastic. We invited Magdalene and Annie to do the trainings. And they said, we need this kind of training here in the US. We need here, can we do this in our church here in the US? So I said, Mimi, we have a lot of work to do, and we can partner and do this together. And with all of your help, prayer, and commitment, what Lee said, we are dangerous. So let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you.